Okay, so hi Snigdha, hi Roshan. It's lovely to have you both here. And I've met Snigdha in person. It's lovely to connect with you as well, Roshan, for the first time, face to face. And yeah, so I would like to start with the basics first, because whenever I go out there and tell anybody about, say, I am pursuing masters in public policy, there are a lot of people who just come to me and say, public policy, I've never heard of it. So, how did you guys came across a master's in public policy course, and how did you decide to go about it? Like, this is the right choice for you. How did you make it? So, one of you, if you would like to go first.
Rosin, would you like to go first?
Uh, yeah, no worries. Thank you, Annie. Thanks for having us, and good to meet you too. I think that's a very valid question, and that's something I think we still are encountered with quite a lot. Like public policy, ye kya hai? Okay. At least for me, how did I come across public policy? So, I mean, before pursuing the master's in public policy at the Kautilya School of Public Policy, I worked with EY, and I was contemplating what to do next, essentially. So, do I do an MBA? Do I do something else? And I wanted to do something different, and that's when I came across, public policy as a course. So for me also, it was kind of difficult to make my parents understand because they were also trying to figure out, okay, ye kya hai? What is public policy? But kind of convinced them, what, this is something new and perhaps will be evolving. And I think most importantly, I think I was convinced that, okay, this is what I wanted to do, something different from the mainstream. And therefore, I chose, to pursue public policy because it was something new.
Well, that's like also that would have been my answer as well, by the like just by the way. And Stigda, what about you?
Yeah, so before coming to Kautilya, I was working in public affairs domain already. I was working with APCO worldwide. Although I'm a pharma graduate, but experience and life led me to exploring PR. So I did a couple of internships to learn the skills. Then I moved to full-time public affairs and strategic communication at APCO. So there I was doing, the company was amazing, work was amazing. There was uh, everything, but I felt like there is still a gap of theoretical understanding about a couple of things. So then I decided to pursue my master's in public policy. But yes, my introduction to public affairs happened post my introduction to public relation. But I mean, it was the information also came from a lot of people and network and information that I got from my friends and
Yeah, we just lost you for a couple of seconds there.
yeah, I think there was some network issue. Um, yeah, so basically, my job at APCO kind of made me realize that there is a requirement for academic learning, and that's why public policy is. You're on mute, Arini, I think.
Yeah, it's sorry, I'm sorry about that. And it's lovely to be on a call with you both, because you both are like highly experienced people, and you both are placed in a very reputed institutes at the moment. And in that sense, after public policy, how did you decide, navigate into the schools that you want to? Because there are different places that you would have shortlisted, and how did you decide that Kotal is the right place for you? Like, what were the key painters for you when you
Okay.
were shortlisting it?
So I'll go first with this one. For me, the deciding factor was, of course, the leadership, because in public policy, the direction which you get from the leadership becomes very important. And apart from that, the other 50% of decision making was based on the courses and the faculty. So the like at Kautilya, this multidisciplinary approach that is there, that kind of really intrigued me and made me curious that okay, we also cover economics, we also cover gender, we also cover business governance and society, media. Like it's a full package, to say so. So that was, of course, most important factor for this decision. Yeah, as
Yeah.
compared to other courses.
I think I resonate with Snigdha. So for me, to be honest, the first time I got to know about Kautilya was somewhere around end of December 2020 and early Jan 2021. And honestly, I discounted it because, you have a lot of schools that come up and you're not certain, if there's one of the schools where they're temporary and then it's shut down next day. And therefore, initially, I kind of discounted it. But I kept getting, the marketing, basically, brochures of Kautilya. And I was like, okay, let's see what this is. And I actually ultimately applied in June 2021. So it took me quite some time to apply. But during that period, what I also did was attended a lot of the webinars and sessions that they had organized to answer a lot of the questions, right? So that was number one that I did. Number two was also verified their pedagogy with the others that are existing. So, for example, Harvard, Oxford, etc., to understand, okay, what's the differences like. And the third thing, what Snigdha mentioned rightly, was the leadership. So the people that were associated with Kautilya School of Public Policy kind of gave me the assurance, what, okay, these are legit people with reputation and there seems to be some value and weightage in what they want to do. So let's give it a try. So yes, so these were the three things, that kind of made me choose Kautilya. And honestly, also was the selection process. So the selection process is different. Like you just have to write an essay, and once shortlisted, you are called for an interview. You don't have to give a test. So for me, that was the big tick mark for me because I don't like writing tests, honestly. So, but yeah.
Right, that was also a big plus point for me personally that we did not have to give a test. So if you could like go back in time to when you were in Kautilya, like what is something that you would do differently this time? Is there something that you would want to do differently? Snigdha, you're smiling. I think you should take this first.
I would definitely like to engage more with my peers, because I was parallelly doing my internship with my with the classes and everything. So that is something that I missed on, being part of the clubs, exploring that bit. So yeah, that is something I would really want to do if given the chance to go back. Yes.
Right.
Well, that is a difficult question to answer, to be honest, because uh, for an institution in India, at least that was my exposure to it, the pedagogy was very different, right? It was not the normal sort of pedagogy where you don't like you hardly have any written tests in your assessment. It's a combination of several things where you engage with each other, engage maybe with the real world also. And therefore, I actually enjoy the process, both in class, outside class, with the faculty, with my
Mm.
peers, the cohort members. So I think I enjoyed the process. I think what was good was just the variety of what was there. So I enjoyed it. I don't know if I could go, I would really want to change anything. Obviously, there's always scope of improvement, and as things evolve, there could be additions every now and then. But yes, yeah.
Right. So you slightly answered this part in this answer, Rosen, that I wanted to know what was the most rewarding part of your experience at Kautilya, your 2 years that you spent there. So, like, what was one of the major, like, one major highlight that you had was so rewarding for you?
So for me, I think one was the cohort for sure. So in our cohort, because it was the first cohort also, it was a lot of nervousness. But I think there was a lot of assurance amongst each other, like, okay, hum log karenge, we'll do it. And the variety of the cohort members. So we had doctors, we had engineers, we had
Mm.
lawyers, we had people who had experience in a social background, who had political science experience. So what was really interesting and what I honestly looked forward to were the discussions we had because they gave a plethora of perspectives of of a single thing. So there were times when I was like, oh, I never thought of this through this perspective, and that just give you that thinking of, okay, this is also how you could view things, right? Number two was the faculty, definitely. I mean, honestly speaking, sometimes when we catch up now, also we kind of remember and talk of the concepts, right? The philosophy and ethics of policy making, logical metrics framework, which is something which I use in my work, for example. The theories of policy like punctuated equilibrium, advocacy coalition framework. So these all things that we did. There were assessments where we had to practically, eh, apply those theoretical concepts in our assessments and all, but these are things that we kind of work now and we were able to better relate and understand what we learn. So I think that's there. and also the mix of the faculty that come, right? It's not just your normal uh, permanent faculty over there. You have visiting faculty, you have practitioners also. So one of the important value adds over there, because you have practitioners, you also get the actual happenings in the ecosystem. What is the current, you know, um, vibe in the environment like? That is the flavor that you get. That will also helps you to kind of, understand, okay, what's going on and what do you want to do next? How do you charter things forward? So I think these three things, I think, were kind of rewarding for me, apart from obviously the other aspects but we can discuss that forward. Yeah, maybe I'll ask Nick that.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, I mean, I second what Rawson said. Like the faculty, of course, was the major highlight. Apart from that, all the practitioners who were coming, and the most important part was, and the most great part was that if you approach them, you always heard back. Okay, and these are super busy people, very very busy people. So if you are able to make that pitch right, and they see that, okay, with a little direction, with a little hand holding, this thing has a potential. So that was given. They always, whenever you write to them, or even approach them on a call, they would be always there to support you. And till date, I mean, I must say, till date, Kautilya network and professors have been really kind and always extending support to their alumni. Yeah.
Might I
right.
add something?
Yeah,
Sorry. One important factor also were the mentors. So I think that was something that also helped us, because there were mentors not just to help us in the field of expertise or area we wanted to, venture into, but also gave us a lot of guidance. And I think
Yes.
for the current batches, what addition that you have is you also have mentors who graduated, the students who graduated. So I think that gives you an additional layer of support over there. So that's, yeah, great.
Yeah, because public policy right now, as a sector, is still evolving in India, right? So we also need to like keep on evolving with that, like how, what is the market expectation? Okay, and you get all these insights and directions from the mentors. So, and you guys are lucky to have like two, I think you'll be the third batch, right? So
yeah,
you have like earlier two batches to kind of help you out, or be there with a little guidance. So yeah.
right, right. Again, we were sitting at the end of it, and because we had our last classes last month
Yes.
itself, so
Yes.
we all were sitting in someone's room, and the last thing that we were discussing was how amazing it is to have a faculty like that, and that was also the crux of our conversation by the end of it, that we had such great professors coming in and so approachable. The networking that we get in Kautilya is something beyond, you would expect. So that was one thing. So linking your questions to this another thing that I have in mind is, because for me personally, we had this one course which was development consulting, last to last trimester, and I am trying to venture my way into that field itself. So when I was sitting in an interview for my internship that I'm doing right now, they asked us several questions about it, and knew those things about the field, and I had idea because I had that course. So did you guys personally had some experience where Kotlin prepared you actually for the real life exposure or the instance that would occur, because it's also beyond academia. So was it helpful to you guys as well as it was for me?
Kautilya prepared us for everything, from theory to your personality, to the leadership values, from handling media. So like Kautilya gave you everything to, we had a blank canvas to just go and explore and paint. If you wanted to go into consulting, that was also given there. If you wanted to do like policy communication or strategic communication, that was also given there. If you wanted to go into research, let's say think tank, or even go for like higher studies, do your PhD, that opportunity was also available. If you wanted to go into like hardcore public affairs and corporate affairs and government relation. So, like as I said, the multidisciplinary approach definitely helped us from using writing as a medium. to build your influence, to using other mixed media mediums, to using like what sort of research methodology was, you should choose, or you should think, or that you can introduce to the other, like other corporates right now. For example, they were at least at least in my experience, when I interact with a lot of people, they're like, oh, acha, uh, I mean, such courses exist and such things are there. So yes, so for me, at least, what I felt was like Kautilya prepared me for everything. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think I can add anything. I think that's second what Snigdha said. I think the only thing I would add is it also prepares us for the rigor. So as you would imagine, the
Oh, yes,
public policy
absolutely.
course is
Yeah.
rigorous, and I think it helps because the transition from a student life to a working life then I think also becomes much more comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, I also remember walking back with my friends from the college one day to a hostel, and we were discussing that if they are giving a, like, we had such a rigorous day. I don't think any corporate life would feel burden to me at this after this. So, they just prepare you for it. For a 9 to 5, like, yeah, that's doable. That's not something that I would not want to, that I would not be able to do or complain about it a lot. A little, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
We had our electives, and I just wanted to know what were your specializations in, like, and how did you go about it? What were your thought process behind it? How did you decide that these are the specializations that you wanted to do? And did it ever help you in, your career and your real life instances in general?
So I did not had any specialization. I didn't go for
Right.
it
Hmm.
because I had some clarity. Actually, I came with a lot of clarity already to
Yeah.
Kautilya that okay, this is what I want to do, and kind of like Kautilya helped me to shape up the plan and then execute it. So I didn't go for any specialization, but yes, I did take a lot of electives depending upon like where I want to work. So if because I was aiming for a role in a corporate affair or a GR role, so I took like I just mapped out. Okay, let's take a JD, just break down what all skills set is required over here, and then just map it out to the courses or the electives which are given, and then with that mix and match, I was able to like cover what I wanted to learn. Yes.
Well, mine was just the opposite. I had no clarity, let me admit that. So when I entered or when I joined Cotelia, I did have an understanding that I wanted to do something in the climate space, for example, but I didn't know what in climate space. So for me, it was more of an exploratory journey, especially the first year and a half, because I was trying to figure out, because climate is a very vast domain, right? And there are so many things that you can do in climate or specialize rather in climate. So my approach was very different. I would take climate as a base, but would apply that in all the subjects that we did. So for example, when we were in the foundation course of law and whatever assessments we would get, I would try to do those assessments from a climate perspective because in the process of understanding climate, I would also kind of do my assessment and understand more about climate. And this is what I did actually for a lot of courses where I took climate and viewed climate through that subject matter. And in the process, I gained some clarity in terms of, okay, this is what I perhaps want to do in climate. So that is the sort of clarity, like at least for me, I got. Not just from the courses, but also after talking to faculties, visiting faculties, your practitioners, also my peers actually. So they all kind of helped me actually in making a decision. Okay, this is what I perhaps want to do.
Right. And with that, I'm thinking about what you guys are currently doing, and that tells me how vast public policy career trajectories can go to. So, like, what are some different fields that are apart from what you guys are doing? Because I also want to navigate my way to different genres. So, what are different fields in public policy, particularly that we freshers or someone who's experienced can aim for?
So
Very, yeah.
yeah, so there is a lot actually. There is a lot. To start with, like for a fresher, that if you ask like what advice do I have? So my advice is that always smaller firms or or an agency or small consulting groups do help. What happens there, for an example, if you don't have a clarity of the sector you want to work in, let's say automobile or climate or anything else like that, but you want, like, for that, you so have working in a smaller agency will help you to have that clarity, because there you will work with like different sectoral clients, different sort of engagements are there. So that definitely helps. Second, research, of course, there are different think tanks, there are government think tanks. Also, a lot of consulting agency does research. There are research other organizations that is there. Then your all your corporates in like across sector, they have their government relation or corporate affairs team. So that is also there, like depending upon your sectoral interest, then maybe with a little bit of experience you can pursue that. Of course, higher studies and research is always there. That is one space. And yeah, that's I mean that's quite vast in itself. But I also I realized with time that when you are aiming for working in a public affairs company in a corporate, so it is always good to have a little background of the sector itself. Okay, so for example, if you want to work in, let's say, any company in telecom, so to have a little bit basic understanding of telecom, how it works, it helps. In auto, like how what is an engine about, right? Or what is a motor about? To have that little bit understanding, the basic understanding always helps. And I find it like really difficult to think that that one can navigate this space without having that sectoral like basics. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Snigdha pretty much covered it. I think, in short, if I were to say anything and everything can be public policy, really.
Yes.
And the good thing about it is you need not have a technical background to pursue something. Like, for example, Snigdha herself had a background in pharma and is pursuing something in public relation and GR in an automobile sector, for example. And like that, there are many colleagues and friends that we had who had very varied backgrounds, really, and are pursuing something that they like. For example, you had engineers who are pursuing something in forestry. You had people who did textile and who have taken textile and policy as an intersection, for example. So I think the permutation and combinations of many. It all comes down to what you want to do and basically sticking to that and just pursuing and just going ahead with that. You just need to have an interest in that particular area and field and just go for it. Yeah.
Right. And like because we discussed about Kotler prepared us to transition to uh, corporate life as well and to a professional setting as well. So in that setting, how do you keep up with the public policy trends and the academic part of your life, or do you guys like not like to keep up with it? So what's the idea?
So, your newsletter subscriptions actually do help what's happening. So for me, I use Google Alerts, and it kind of like just helps me to track anything and everything happening with those particular areas where what I want to like keep myself update. One I habit, like I think I have this from since childhood, to read a newspaper. So for me, it's all like reading two newspapers a day is something that I've still maintained, and I think yeah, that always helps me. Yes.
That's a very valid question, Arini, but I'll just take a step back. I think one important question is also how do you transition from being a working professional to then joining a course?
Hmm.
Personally, because after working for over half a decade, then joining a course, it's a very different experience. And I think one important thing that is required, that I feel is required, is you need to be willing to unlearn, because you come with certain preconceived notions and you sort of then create a boundary for yourself. But the best thing would be is to unlearn, so that you are then ready to learn more. And I think this is true not just when entering into a course, but even post graduation as you go along, because there's so many developments that happen. You need to be willing to learn and just be open to learning, right? And yeah, that's me.
I'll just
Right.
give you one. Rawson rightly said that, because um, I told you, right, like having a little basic, I thought initially was good enough to kind of me help to navigate this space. But right now I'm planning to do like a certification course on on the technology, on like hardcore technology on electric vehicles, because I experienced that, okay, this will help me, like, to take that another step, like to climb up. So yes, the one should like always be open to learn, definitely, and as Rosen said, to unlearn. Yeah.
Yeah, so circling back to how this conversation started, because I directly came after my bachelor's here, so my experience was very different from people who, dropped for a few years or maybe worked and then came to Kautilya. So I got, like, personally, I felt I had so much to learn because I had also people who had worked before. I also have people who prepared for UPSC in my cohort. So I had that exposure. So how is it for you guys, the cohort exposure and the Kotla experience, being a working professional first and then coming to, apart from the unlearning part, how, like, what did you gain from Kotla in that sense?
Right. I think so for me, like I mentioned, right, there was a lot of unlearning that I had to do.
Right.
But at the same time, as we progress and kind of, like I kind of understood this is the specialization I sort of wanted to do, I also realized that at least for someone who has work experience, there are skills and things that you learned which are transferable. So you can be from a different background, it's fine. But there are certain skill sets which will be valid, which will be applicable irrespective of whichever field you go. So don't discount those. For example, initially I thought, you know what, I came from I worked in EY, I had some finance background. I'm going to go into climate, something very different. But I realized that, oh, wait, I can actually marry both of them. And that's what I did, right? Like leverage what you did in the past, get what you're doing right now, marry them and see what can happen. That is number one. Number two, if you're a fresher, there's no need to be worried about things, to be honest. And this I say out of my own experience of working before and even joining now. The advantage that you have as freshers is you have life ahead of you, if I say so to speak, because you're just entering into the workspace. You have that option and that leverage to explore and experiment with what you want to do. And a lot of my course mates also did the same. So there were a lot of them who were freshers who initially joined a particular organization and then realized, you know what, perhaps this is not for me. And they switched to a different organization and they're doing fine now. So you will have instances like this, which is absolutely okay. So don't be, I would say, uh, scared or fearful that you don't have the relevant experience or things won't work out. In fact, just good because maybe you will be able to better understand your likings, your strengths, and your area of or area of liking, so to speak, to then chart out a career. And always remember this. This is something that a lot of the founders of the institution also did say, uh, which we also initially discounted because we are students, to be honest. But don't look job as an end goal. Job is just a means to what you want to do, and that holds true. I mean, initially when we went to cohort, we were thinking, "Arey, ye kya bol rahe?" Because you're spending so
Hmm.
much, so you're expecting some ROI in what you want to get. But now that we are working, when we're working for a couple of years now, we kind of understand, what job is just a meal. So think of it from a long-term perspective. Job is just one step to get you over there.
I think Rosen already very nicely covered it all. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So because we had a lot, very prominent people coming from different areas teaching us. So, can you tell us an instance where, a professor that you would remember, or course that you would remember because it was very, let's say, iconic for you? Oh,
It's
Snigdha, you
actually
want
a
to go?
very tough question. I mean, I won't be able to select like this one moment or for me, I mean, just initially to kind of like imagine the opportunity to have access or the an opportunity to learn from the stalwarts of different sectors was iconic in itself. So I mean, I cannot, I don't think I can choose one instance or a one professor. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree with Snigdha because all the courses were great in a way, and so were the people who were administering them, right? Even the faculty, we would go and talk to the faculty not just about a course. They were, we would just go and have a personal conversation with them about life and about our personal things. How do we maneuver it, for example? So everyone was approachable. That was the best part. One instance I vividly remember is because it just struck me now. So we had the chief economist of the World Bank come and teach us, and his class got over. I wanted to discuss a couple of things with him, but unfortunately, I had another class to go to, and there were people already waiting to meet him. And I thought, and that was his last day and last class. So I thought, okay, I won't get a chance to talk to him. It so happened that evening, I was having dinner at the mess, and he comes to me and says, "Hey, I know you wanted to talk to me, so let's catch up after dinner." And I was not expecting that. Like, the chief economist of the World Bank, remembering that, oh, someone approached you, and then making time to spend with you. It's something that kind of, struck me. And this was true with every other lecturer as well. You go after office hours, before office hours, they're all willing to accommodate you, to listen to you and to guide you. So I think that was a good thing. And this was not just the faculty as well, but also your batchmates. Actually, a lot of them willing and being there for you, just to listen to you and to help you out. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, like Kautilya, I think pushes you to your limits and pushes you to do things that you would not usually take up. I'm a very shy person. I would not have taken, an AMA session with so many audience. And I would, I'm a bachelor's in history student. I would not have done my specialization in economics for public policy. So uh, Kotlin just helps you navigate your way through it and gives you the confidence to pursue certain things. So what would be your instant or maybe a situation or let's say maybe a skill that you picked up because Kotlin pushed you or helped you to gain that? Yeah, you guys are thinking,
Good
like
question.
I can see your face.
I think I think the way this course is structured, you unknowingly or knowingly acquire a lot of skills, right? For example, the fact that you have assessments which do not require to do it maybe individually, but as a group, is a form of working with groups, working with diverse people with diverse opinions, with strong opinions, by the way, and helping you not just to complete your assessment, but also gives you a flavor of how life would be once you exit those doors, right? Because you will find this kind of people, you'll find certain situations in your workspace. So how do you deal with that, for example, right? And I think, like I said earlier, also once before that, I think this is also the best place to make mistakes, really, because um, you know you're in a phase where you're exploring both maybe yourself, exploring the course, exploring the areas you want to do things, and it's fine doing mistakes because this is a place where you can make those mistakes, learn from them, and eventually then get more clarity in terms of what you want to do in life. So I think that's there. And I think the other thing also was, I think, the internships for me personally. So like I mentioned, in this whole circle of with what we call the business, government, and society, because I had a work experience, I understood how businesses work, right? Government and society was something that I was exploring. And for me, I knew that I may not get a chance to work in the government in the near future. So can I explore the internship opportunity of working with the government, just to give me that understanding of how governments work? And therefore, when I applied for the internship, I didn't apply from an intention of getting a job, but I just applied from an intention of exploring that sector.
Hmm.
And therefore, I interned with the government of Maharashtra in the environment department, and through that, it gave me a good understanding of how the governments work. Sometimes, when you see from outside, you criticize the government a lot, like ye kyun nahi kar rahe, wo kyun nahi kar rahe. And when you actually see behind the scenes of how they have to work with the limited resources they have to work and get things done, is when you kind of appreciate and understand. Okay, this is how governments work, and you get a better understanding of that stakeholder in the whole space of policy making. So that was one thing which I think was a plus point for me to understand, how governments work, to give me a better understanding of the three major stakeholders, so to speak: business, government, and society. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Rosen has again covered it very, very nicely. So we can move to the next question, maybe. Yeah.
Right. Oh, well, we are just running out of time. I just want to end with letting you both know that Kautila also remembers you a lot, because whenever I talk to the dean or someone who knew you guys, they would also give me examples like, how much clarity Snigdha had when she came in. Everybody, almost everybody who knew told me this. So I was like, yeah, I was very humbled when I met you. I was like, wow. She, and about Rawson again, Dean was again mentioning one day that you can do the way he did. He explode. It's not necessary that you
You
stick to
need to
one
do
thing.
that. Yes.
So yeah, Kotila remembers you both, and we are given some lessons with your names as well. So it was great catching up with you both, and it was lovely having you both here. And thank you for everyone else who attended the session.
Thank you, Rennie. Thank you for
Thank you,
inviting
Renee.
us.
Thank you for having us.
Always a
Thank
pleasure
you.
to be back.
Yes.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you.